Welcome viewers to my channel. I'm here to teach you science of class 10th as per CBSE syllabus, which is based on NCERT book. On this channel I'll be teaching you science from class 6 to class 10th. Let's start with the first chapter of class 10th, that is chemical reactions and equations. I have divided this chapter into total 10 modules. In first module we'll be studying about physical and chemical changes and chemical reactions. In module 2, we will be discussing about chemical equations, different forms of chemical equations like word equation, skeletal equation, balanced chemical equation and its implication, and balancing a chemical equation. In module 3, we will be studying types of chemical reactions, and in it we will be completing the first type, that is combination reaction, and we will be introducing the second one, that is the decomposition reaction. In module 4, we will be completing decomposition reaction, which is divided into three parts: thermolysis, electrolysis and photolysis. In chapter 5 we will be completing displacement reaction and double displacement reaction. Double displacement reaction is divided into two types: precipitation and neutralization. In module 6 we will be completing oxidation and reduction as well as rancidity. In module 7 we will be revising whole chapter, and in module 8, 9 and 10 we will be solving previous year question paper of chapter 1. Let's start with module 1. In module 1 we are going to study physical and chemical changes and chemical reactions. And let me introduce myself. I am Arun Kumar Pathak. Now let's start with the chapter. So as this chapter belongs to chemistry, we should firstly understand what is chemistry. Now if we think about it, what is chemistry, then many answers comes. Okay, but what I think is best for us at this particular level is chemistry is study of matter. And what we study about matter, think about it. So the things that we study about matter is its composition, what this matter is made up of, and then properties, what are the properties of the particular matter. And the third one is transformations, means how this matter can be changed, how the properties of this matter can be changed, and how this matter can undergo change to form another matter. These are the things that we study in chemistry, right? So in this chapter we will be especially focusing on transformation part, right? This chapter chemical reactions and equation is mostly based on transformation part. The transformations are the changes that we see all around us, right? Like melting of ice, boiling of water, and the common problem that we face, that is rusting of iron. These all are change that we see around us that occurs in the matters, isn't it? Now these changes are broadly divided into two parts. These are physical and chemical changes. Now firstly let's understand what is physical change. Now if only the physical property of a substance is changing, then it is a physical change. Here we have to take into account the important thing, that what is changing? Physical property. And whose physical property is changing? Of a substance. That means what? Substance is not changing, only the physical parameter of that particular substance is changing, right? If substance is not changing, that means in a physical change new chemical substance is not formed, right? So a physical change is a change in which only the physical property only the physical property changes, right? And whose physical property changes? Of a substance. And second important thing is new chemical substance is not formed. Now let's see what are the physical properties. The physical properties are shape, size, color, state and temperature, right? These are the physical properties. Now let's see few examples to understand these things. Say I have taken a piece of paper, right? And what I do, I tear it apart into smaller pieces. So I'll get many small pieces of paper. So here you can see what is happening actually. The piece of paper, one piece of big piece of paper is transformed to many pieces of papers which are of smaller size. But in the beginning of the transformation, the substance that we used was paper, and after the transformation the substance that we get is also paper. What is changing? Only its physical parameter, that is its shape and size is changing, right? As no new substance is formed and only the physical parameter has changed, it is called physical change. Now many of the students, they have a misconception that a physical change is a reversible change. Now can you reverse it? We cannot reverse this change, right? So all physical changes are not reversible. Let's see few more examples. Say I have taken a piece of uh, ice, right, in a container. So say this is a piece of ice in a container, and if I keep it at room temperature for a certain period of time, then what will happen? This piece of ice will melt and it will get converted into water, right? Now I will get some amount of water in it. So this is solid, ice is solid, and here what I'm getting? I'm getting water, that is liquid. But the chemical formula for ice is H2O, and the chemical formula for water is also H2O. That means what? The substance has remained same, only its physical property has changed. Which physical property has changed? State. It has changed its state from solid to liquid. Now, if I heat it, then what will happen? If I heat it, then its temperature will increase, right? By heating, the temperature will increase. That is again a physical change. And after a certain period of time, when it will reach its boiling point, then what will happen? It will start to form bubbles and steam will start to release. Now this steam, what this steam is? The chemical formula for this steam is H2O. That means what? This is also a physical change because H2O remains H2O. What is happening? Only it is changing its state from liquid to vapor, right? Let's take another example. Now, are these changes reversible? Yes, these changes are reversible. If you cool the water, it will become ice. Okay, gas can condense to become water. Steam can condense to become water. So these are reversible. So physical changes can be reversible. Physical changes can be irreversible. Right. Now take example of nail, iron nail. So we have seen that iron nail. Uh, Sorry, this is not relevant for this particular thing. Let's take example of a mixing of sand with water, right? If you mix sand and water, what will happen? It is simply a physical association between sand and water. Even after mixing, sand remains sand and water remains water, and we can easily separate them out, right? By filtration. method. So these are the physical changes that we have discussed, and in all this we have seen that what is changing is actually the physical properties, and there is no change in the matter. Okay, the substance remains the same. So tearing a sheet of paper, melting of ice, boiling of water, mixing sand and water, all these are physical changes. Now let's see what is chemical change. A chemical change is a change in which a new substance is formed. Very simple. A chemical change is a change in which a new substance is formed. Right? New chemical substance is formed. If any change, a new chemical substance is formed, then it is a chemical change. So in the earlier slide, what we have seen, in any of the change, in none of the change, uh, new substance were not formed, right? Here we'll see examples where new substance is formed. Let's take example of the iron nail. If you take iron nail, then if we expose it to water and air, then after certain period of time we see reddish brown color substances growing over it, and slowly iron decomposes. This process is called rusting, right? And it has different properties than iron. So this is a chemical change. Iron gets converted into rust. As new substance is formed, it is a chemical change. Similarly, we can see many biological transformations takes place around us, and all those biological transformations are actually chemical change. Like, let's take example, we eat food, right? And we digest food. In digesting the food, what happens? Proteins, carbohydrates, they get converted into smaller molecules like amino acids and glucose, right? So in this process, what happens? The protein is converted into amino acid and carbohydrate is converted into glucose. This is digestion process, right? So here new substance is formed. So digestion is a chemical change. Protein is converted into amino acid and glucose is converted into um, carbohydrate is converted into glucose. So this is digestion process. Now these things get converted into proteins and carbohydrate inside our body. Once it is digested, it is again converted into different proteins. Now these are plant proteins that we convert into amino acids, and these amino acids are used to make animal proteins, and these glucose are used to make animal carbohydrates, right? This is growth. This occurs in both plants and animals. So this is actually growth of plant and animal. Now you would have seen degradation process. Like if you're moving on a road and you see a dog is dead over there. After a few days, if you go, you will find out only its skin is there and its bone are there. The remaining part is disintegrated. So what happens in that process? All the macromolecules like protein, carbohydrates, and all those things are converted into simple molecules like carbon dioxide, water, ammonia, right? So this is disintegration process. This is disintegration. So these complex molecules disintegrates into very simple molecules. Now plants use these materials for making something. What things it makes? It makes protein and carbohydrate from these materials by the process of photosynthesis and other metabolic process. So all these are chemical changes, right? So digestion is a chemical change, disintegration is a chemical change, growth is a chemical change, photosynthesis is a chemical change, right? So all these are chemical changes only. Now, as chemical changes occur, uh, and in chemical changes, what is happening? New chemical substances form. Now the thing is, we have seen certain examples of chemical changes. Now let's see those examples one more time. Burning of wood, digestion of food, degradation of organic waste, photosynthesis, growth of plant and animals, and rusting of iron. Now here what is happening, uh, a substance is converted into another substance. Like say a substance A is converted into another substance, say B. Now let's take an example that to say if A is a substance which is solid at room temperature and it gets converted into B, which is say gaseous at room temperature. Like if you burn coal, right? Say A is coal, it is solid at room temperature, and it's get converted into B, and B is carbon dioxide, it is gaseous, right? Now if we see, then the color of A is black, and B, the color of carbon dioxide is, it is colorless, right? So if A is changing into B, then the physical properties will also change. Why it is happening? Because A has different set of physical properties and B has different set of physical properties. So when a chemical change occurs, there is always a physical change. Let's see some example of it, like burning of wood or a burning of coal. If a coal will burn, then what will happen? It will change into carbon dioxide. So a solid substance will change into gaseous substance, and its color will also change. Coal is black in color, and the carbon dioxide that will be formed, it will be colorless, right? Change of color. Let's take another example for change of color. Say I have taken copper sulfate in a test tube, right? This is copper sulfate. Now the color of copper sulfate is, you all will be knowing, it is blue. It is blue in color. Now say I have dropped zinc in it. What I have dropped? A zinc metal in it. This is zinc. Now what is the color of zinc? Silver, bluish silver, right? It is bluish silver. Now what will happen? These will react. These will react to produce zinc sulfate. Zinc sulfate. And the color of zinc sulfate is colorless, like the color of water. Water is colorless. Similarly, zinc sulfate is colorless. So copper sulfate solution will get converted into zinc sulfate solution. So the color of the liquid will change from blue to colorless, right? And here zinc metal is there. Zinc metal will get deposited to form, dissolved to form zinc sulfate. Some of the zinc metal will be remaining, and on the zinc metal we will be seeing the deposition of copper, right? We will be seeing the deposition of copper. Now the color of copper is reddish brown. color of copper is reddish brown. So we see the change in color in the metal, actually not metal. We'll be seeing the deposition of reddish blue on zinc metal, and we'll see that the color of the liquid changes from copper sulfate to zinc sulfate. So here what is happening, copper sulfate is converted into zinc sulfate, transformed into zinc sulfate. So this is a chemical change as new substance is formed. But along with the formation of new substance, what is happening? The color is changing. That means what? A chemical change is always associated with some or other type of uh, physical change. Precipitation is formation of new solid, right? So if we take a aqueous solution and a reaction is occurring there, if a insoluble solid is formed in it, then it is called precipitation. We'll be discussing precipitation in detail in module 5. It is part of double displacement reaction. Evolution of gas. Okay, for evolution, to explain evolution of gas, I'll be taking another example. Let's take another example. In this, I have taken a test tube. In the test tube, HCl is present, right? What is present? HCl, hydrochloric acid, HCl solution. Okay, aqueous HCl. Now, if we add zinc in it, then what will happen? This zinc will react with HCl to produce zinc chloride, and hydrogen gas. So we can see hydrogen evolving, right? So in this case we say see a gas evolve, right? So evolution of gas that we can see in a chemical change. Change in temperature, like burning of wood in or burning of coal or burning of LPG, we see a rise in the temperature, right? So these are the examples. So we are done with physical change and chemical change. Now let's move on to chemical reactions. So what is a chemical reaction? A chemical change can be represented by chemical reaction because a new substance is formed. So how we can write it? We can write it like this. A is converted into B, right? So this A is the reactant and B is the product, right? So the matter which is in the beginning of the reaction, that is called reactant, and the new substance that is formed during the reaction, it is called product, right? So reactant is the one which takes part in the reaction, and product is the one which is formed due to the reaction, right? That we have already discussed that in a chemical reaction, the substance taking part in the reaction changes into new substance with entirely different set of properties that we have discussed. And the substance taking part in the reaction are called reactants, and the new substance formed in the chemical reaction are called products. Now, a chemical change is usually permanent and it cannot be reversed easily. So, chemical changes are actually permanent changes, right? But we have seen that in digestion process, what happens if in the smaller macromolecules are converted into smaller molecules, like protein is converted into amino acid, carbohydrate converted into glucose. And in growth, we have seen these molecules are again converted amino acid into protein and glucose into carbohydrate. So if we give a special condition, then these can be reversed, right? So it is not so that it is always irreversible. Chemical changes are always irreversible. If we give special conditions, then these can be reversed. But it is not easy to be reversed, right? We need to give a special condition, then only it can reverse. Now what happens during a chemical change? During a chemical change, there is breaking of bonds between the atoms of the reactants, and at the same time new bonds are formed, right? Let's take an example to understand this. Say methane is burning, CH4 is methane, say it is burning, right, with oxygen to form carbon dioxide and water vapor. So how this conversion take place? This conversion takes place by very simple method, that is when we give ignition temperature to it. When we give ignition temperature to methane, then what happens? It breaks into carbon and hydrogen, right? It breaks into carbon and hydrogen. Similarly, oxygen molecule breaks into oxygen atoms, individual oxygen atoms. So methane has broken into individual carbon and hydrogen atoms, and oxygen has broken into oxygen atoms. Now, part of oxygen, some atoms of the oxygen combine with carbon to form carbon dioxide, and a part of oxygen reacts with hydrogen to form water molecule, right? So here breaking of bond takes place. In the reactant, the breaking of bonds take place. So the bond between carbon and hydrogen breaks, and we get individual carbon and hydrogen atoms, and the bond between oxygen molecules break, and we get individual oxygen atoms. And new bonds are formed between carbon and oxygen to give rise to carbon dioxide, and new bonds are formed between hydrogen and oxygen to form water molecule, right? Now we have completed chemical reaction also. Now let's revise the module 1. So what is chemistry? Chemistry is the study of the composition, properties and transformation of matter, and in this chapter we are dealing mostly with transformations of matter. Then we have discussed physical and chemical change. Physical change, only physical property of a substance changes, new substances are not formed, like melting of ice and boiling of water, right? And in chemical changes, new substances are formed, right? Now what is a chemical reaction? Chemical reaction is associated with one or more of the physical changes that we have already discussed, because in chemical reaction what happens? Uh, New substance is formed, right? So new substance has different physical properties, so physical changes also occurs. Like when zinc copper sulfate converts into zinc sulfate, its color changes. Now, chemical changes are represented by chemical reaction because new substances are formed in it. The substance which takes part in the reaction, it is called reactant, and the substance which is formed in the reaction, it is called product. So if A is taking part in the reaction, it is the reactant, and if B is forming in the reaction, it is product. And just we have seen that breaking of bonds in the reactants takes place, and formation of new bonds to make product also occurs during a chemical reaction. Thank you for watching. And this module is available in English language and Hindi English mixed language also. So if you are not comfortable with English language, then you can see this module in Hindi English mixed language also. Kindly give your feedback and suggestions to improve this channel, and if you find it uh, right for you, then you can subscribe it to get further notifications for the new videos that I upload. Thank you for watching. See you again. Thank you.